Hey everybody, it's the Einstein on Wall Street from the balcony here at the New York Stock Exchange. This is Trade Like Einstein. Ladies and gentlemen, you know I've brought you everything in food, fashion, fun, fancy, all different things. But what I love to do is tell a humanist story. I like people who have sort of breaking different barriers, who are bringing you things that really change people's lives, okay? You know, whether it's an individual, whether it's a couple, and in any industry, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of, in this world of social media that we're living in, everybody's hiding behind sort of that facade of your phone, and you don't really get down and dirty with what real people are all about. So, you know, for me, a one-on-one with somebody who's done something really special and really have a platform and are doing something really serious with it, whether it's in business, especially in business, entrepreneurship and whatnot. So I wanted to invite you into my world for a little bit. You know, I do that on a regular basis. This is a special part of my world. I want to introduce you to Evan Dash and Rachel Heck, two of my favorite people in the world. They're going to be talking about their business, talking about their lives, talking about tariffs, talking about absolutely everything. Just talk it. Hi.
Hi.
Hey. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see
welcome,
you
welcome,
too.
welcome. It's a pleasure.
Always great.
So let's get down and dirty for a minute. So you guys, I've known you now for, I don't know, 15 years,
Yeah.
13 years.
More than,
okay.
yeah.
And so we're here and like, you know, this is the last bastion of capitalism, right? You actually, people don't need to know where you live. But in the financial district, in the neighborhood. So, you know, this is sort of a cool spot, right? We were just giving a little history lesson of what's so iconic about the financial industry. And it's sort of funny because when you're in here, you kind of, first of all, that's why I still come into work every day. For me, I find this the most like inspiring place to be. Like, so we're standing in the balcony here. We watch all the logos, right, go by. I can stand up here any morning at 10:30 after the market opens and just stare at the logos going by and just be inspired from that marketing advertising point of view. And what I love about what you guys did, because, you know, I think if I didn't do what I do, I would be in your business, and you know, and I love what you guys do. So, you know, we're going to break down what these wonderful people do. So, let's talk about it. So, talk about you two first of all.
So we're a married couple,
Yeah.
Right?
We have worked together for close to 20 years at this point. But back in 2010, after Rachel was a buyer at Bed Bath & Beyond, I was senior VP at Macy's. We had this vision to start our own business. We knew what our suppliers were great at, and we knew what our suppliers were not great at. Okay. And we basically said, we're going to attack the frustrations of a retailer and give something amazing to the consumer at the same time.
So your bypass, sorry to interrupt you, which I'll probably do a bunch of times.
Please.
But so you're a buyer?
Yes, I was a buyer.
Okay, and you are.
So I ran most of the home business at Macy's.
Okay, so look, those are the two largest retailers. Both are listed here, although Bed Bath & Beyond, right, is no longer.
Right.
Okay, that's all fine and good.
Yeah.
So and those industries are basically so much a part of our lives on a daily basis. And so for me, what I found exciting when I met you guys was the fact is, so I love the retro thing. I mean, that's a big part of that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, like, think about the products we use on a daily basis, right? And you guys have, I'm going to sort of bop around a little bit because it's just the way my brain works. But, you know, for me, it's so exciting. I'm a big retro guy, and I love, like, the Mad Men concept, and I love advertising and logos and marketing. And at the end of the day, it's all about marketing, right? And so you guys were buying products. So talk to me about you. Right in the beginning as the buyer.
So when I was at Bed Bath, I used to buy a certain category. It actually wasn't in kitchen, but I knew all of the competitors in the space, and it was always a space that I was really excited about.
Were you buying for the whole country, or were buying for sectors?
No, the whole country.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really exciting. I used to love going in and meeting with all the suppliers. But to Evan's point, when we decided to start our own company, we knew who we were working with. We knew who we were dealing with in the space, and we said, we could definitely do something here and kind of step into the white space that nobody's playing in right now in the kitchen area. So let's step aside from kitchen for a second. So as buyers in
what sector did you work? So what's your background?
So
Tell me about Rachel at 20.
So my background's in fashion. I went
Okay.
to school for fashion.
No,
I
no
love fashion. Yeah, that is definitely my passion.
Okay.
So that's what makes me tick.
Okay.
So I went to school for it, then worked in the field for several years.
So
and then,
originally as a buyer, you were still in
yeah,
fashion.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
I was in fashion, and then ended up at Bed Bath & Beyond on Long Island.
Right.
And switched
Not the
over.
most fashionable spot.
No, but then when we founded our company, which I know we're not there yet, but
Right.
I definitely, added fashion into the colors and the look and all
Gotcha.
of that. So
Okay.
it's all
And then
awesome.
you. So then give me your background.
So
You.
I wrote a book. It came out, A Dash of Good. It chronicles me as a screw-up kid, failing out of college twice,
Okay.
joining the fire department, and eventually getting my degree, getting into business at Lord & Taylor, another unfortunately
Yeah, right.
not here
Where
retailer.
I spent most of my
Yeah.
childhood with
Yeah.
my mother.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I mean,
And,
and that and
and then-
Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Right, and then worked my way over to Macy's, became the youngest senior VP. I was the youngest person on executive committee, and I did so well in corporate America, but I think it was the firefighter training because I knew how to plan and strategize and communicate, and nothing got me rattled. I was great in an emergency, and in retail all day, in any business, all day long, you're putting out fires.
Well, that's it's funny that's maybe why we see eye to eye in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a big
Definitely.
deal,
Yeah.
right? So many people, we wake up. You know what? I have this guy. He's one of my mentors. His name is David Meltzer. David Meltzer was the guy who they made the Jerry Maguire movie about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
yeah.
was the first
Yeah.
guy in sports management.
Yep.
And he talks about, he says, that feeling in your stomach when you wake up in the morning and it's like butterflies and you're like, you don't think you don't have the confidence to
Yeah.
do stuff and you can't really handle it. He said you've got to flip that on its head and realize when you have that feeling, you're about to go do some epic shit.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can work that mind space, it's all about mindset and mind space,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So that's your background?
Yeah,
Did
that's
you
my
really
background.
Do that?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Worked my way up, and I mean, for us, we were in the same business in retail.
And you met as buyer. You were like
I wound up selling to her.
Yeah, he was
I
selling
left
to me.
retail before
Yeah.
she did.
Right.
I was selling to her. I didn't like it because she was so demanding, so on top of her numbers, the business, the details, and I am not a detail guy at all.
So you were fast.
This is
moving.
one of
Yeah,
the
he was
first times
very
I felt like I was really outmatched.
Wow.
And for us, we immediately built this respect. She didn't care who I used to be or what titles were or anything.
Right.
We were just people, and
Right.
we built this great friendship.
Right.
Eventually got together, decided we were going to start a business together,
Right.
and knew from the outset that we were like together, we were the perfect CEO, like the perfect executive, because we had all of the detail side of it,
Right.
big picture thinking,
You
the
didn't
dreaming.
cannibalize each other
No,
at
we
all,
have
right?
such
So
a
you complement
different,
each
yes,
other.
and we
Yeah.
don't want to
Which
do what
makes
the other
the
one
best
does.
businesses.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
unlike other couples we know who are constantly nitpicking and second guessing,
Yeah.
we have a total respect and admiration for
Right.
what the other one does. We don't want to do it.
Right.
And we give each other feedback. Rachel's been the first person I was able to take constructive feedback from without
And
getting,
that,
without getting angry.
that is
It's a
one of the
beautiful
hardest
thing.
things to do is not to take criticism personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is all a learning game, right? One of the parts of humility, which is so important, is forever be a student of your business, and that's
Yeah.
like watching you guys grow and do what you're doing is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're both buyers, then you decided to get together, and basically you stepped into. So you created
Small
something that
kitchen,
was not,
yeah,
Yeah.
small
but you
kitchen appliance brand.
But you created a what's the word I'm trying to use? You created something that was not there. You sort of bypassed all the other things. 'Cause
Right.
Before you started your company, it was a bunch of different people
Sure.
that it would take to do what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was also, there was kind of a magic about what we did because we were on the retail side and we knew what the shortcomings were of the people we would be competing against.
Right.
We knew that they weren't skewed, they weren't talking to a younger consumer, they weren't bringing fashion into the kitchen,
Yeah.
they weren't making people smile, they weren't creating content. And this was the dawn of social media
Right.
when we first started. We launched the brand on Instagram. You couldn't even pay to advertise. It was just you hoped to be on that popular page when people first opened the app in the morning.
So, question though. As buyers in that industry, I have this image of the sort of the schmata buyer, the guy who was at Macy's, a little, no disrespect, the little Jewish guy who was who were buyers in your. You surely were not typical of a buyer for Bed Bath and Beyond. I would imagine not.
I had the most unbelievable group of people that I worked with.
Your mentors?
Yeah, they were incredible.
Okay.
I'm still in touch with all of them. Right. They're great, but it's not what you're envisioning.
Okay, it's not.
No.
And what about you though? For Macy's, I mean, you're thinking of these are two such different retailers. First of all, right? I mean, for me, that's a fascinating thing. I grew up like little Jewish kid in New York City with a mother, immigrant mother, who would, it's funny, I have really fond memories of like Bloomingdale's, and we never went to Macy's. I think Bloomingdale's, Orbex, Saks Fifth Avenue, New York City was a hub of these old school department stores that, I mean, we just opened up the Printemps here, right? Which is like, I guess, a modern day department store, right? Because what it is, think about that. It's like we just talked about, we're out here, the Buttonwood tree was here. That was originally, there was a pavilion here, and there was all these little companies that came under one umbrella, right? So that concept of people under one umbrella doing business it goes back to probably the beginning of time. I'm sure in old Greece there was, oh, what should I have over here? I'll have 2 rocks and and a chicken, please. But anyway, so that memory of department stores and retail was an amazing thing as a child. I remember going there, Best and Company. There was a company, you're too young for that. So there was a store on Fifth Avenue, and it was, I used to go there and get my hair cut, and you get a balloon, and it was just this, the whole thing was like an experience to go into that. So, I mean, I'm talking about that too because you guys are so experiential. So anyway, okay.
But for me as a kid, that's so perfect because my dad worked for Macy's when I was a little guy.
Really?
And I remember like the greatest days were when he would take me to work and we'd take the train into Herald Square into Penn Station, walk across to Herald Square, take the old wooden escalators down. And at that point, I was probably, and I was probably reaching up to hold the handle. I was so young, and they had an electronics department, and it was like going to a World's Fair almost, sights and smells and foods. And if I was
that
good,
already excited you back then?
Yeah, it really excited me back then.
Okay.
But I had no idea what it was or what it meant to be a buyer or an executive in a retail company. But just knowing that I was in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade with my brother when I was in first grade, and I went back to school as like a celebrity because I was on TV, in that old like fuzzy definition. I knew where I was. So.
So anyway, when I met these wonderful people, they had just started a business. It's called Dash, okay? And, Housewares is something, so they started, give me a breakdown on what the business is all about. So you guys ended up meeting and you got together, you started this company, and it was around, so they took all the things that they had learned in the retail space as buyers, and they sort of stepped it up a whole nother level, but you really missed them. I mean, I'm sure you probably had a beautiful ascent, but, to get to the point, suddenly you guys were making you were picking up. I mean, we just talked about it, the 3D pancake maker. But you suddenly took products so everybody has this, as we grow up, we have things that are wonderful memories of the past, and we're always trying to get that back, right? And look, as fast as our lives go in this trajectory to there, I think we're going to be like the Jetsons really soon, as opposed to the Flintstones, right? We're going to be literally the work that I do on YouTube and whatnot around the AI space is telling me that literally within 2 or 3 years, look, autonomous cars are around the corner. Robots in the house are around the corner. So for anybody as the further we go along in this techno race that we're in, the more we want a little piece of what we knew when we were growing up. So you went into the Housewares company, which is like, you have this image of like, TV in the 50s and 60s. There were 3 channels, and there was a housewife, and she had these, I have wonderful visions of like the original refrigerator and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that's part of your world. So you went on, you started a company, and you went on to start producing old Housewares products in a new space. Is that what happened?
But we started with a blank sketch pad, and we sat at the kitchen table in our apartment. We said, what kind of business should we start?
We didn't even know we were going into the kitchen space at first. Yeah,
Rachel was pushing for women's shoes.
You just knew that you wanted to be together.
When
did you fall in love?
before that.
minute
Yeah,
you met
yeah.
each other.
The minute-
I
yeah.
love it first
Yeah,
sight.
very-
It's got to have been a love
Yeah.
at first
It
sight
was
story
like a
here.
love at first
Yeah, I
sight.
know, I'm
Yes,
sure it
yes.
was. Okay, so you decide you want to start a business. You didn't want to work for anybody any longer.
Right.
Correct.
We wanted to
my point.
own our
wanted to-
calendar.
You are the ultimate
Yes.
entrepreneurs.
Yep.
You are basically people who have this incredible, inventory of information and knowledge,
Yep.
right, and excitement, and you knew you wanted to do, you had found something you loved to
Yep.
do, which
Yep.
was to be together and start a business.
Exactly.
That's sometimes there's nothing more than that.
Yeah. Yep.
And you didn't wait around till all the pieces of the puzzle
No,
were in
Right.
place. Some
definitely
people
not.
think I've got to get everything done before I can start a
Right.
business.
No.
You jumped into it. You literally said, tell me that. You
Yeah,
started
so
sitting down.
we knew what we were offering. So before we had any idea what a product was, we knew that we could sit across from a former coworker or a retailer and say, we've sat in your seat.
Right.
We know the pressures you're under. We know every supplier you do business with. And most importantly, we know that every time you get a phone call, every time you get an email, your day gets worse. We're not going to do that to you. Your success is our success. And like all of a sudden, it's like the walls would come down. And it was almost like that camaraderie that I felt back in the fire department when you're around other guys. Like you let your
You're in the-
guard
right, you're in
down
the
and
same space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we knew that we could do that and have those discussions. But at the same time, we also knew we couldn't just go in and give them commodity product.
Right.
We had to bring them
didn't
something
want to sell
that they
existing
didn't
stuff.
have.
You wanted
right.
something special.
Yep. And we just kept settling on the place where we could innovate the most was kitchen appliances. And Rachel had a vision of, okay, we need to bring fashion to it. We
Yeah.
need to make people smile. We need to be affordable joy. Because to your point, the things that we think back to are like the family experiences around the table,
It's
the
creating
holiday
those special
meals.
moments.
Yep.
Joy,
with your
joy,
family.
joy,
It's
right,
joy.
right, exactly.
Exactly.
And realize it's funny, joy. People think of happiness. Joy is so. This same guy, it's curious that you said that because this guy David Meltzer, who ended up he at the age of 28, he had made $300 million. He was the guy who came up with the endorsement concept, right? If I'm
Yeah.
a basketball player and I'm wearing Nikes and I'm getting paid $40 million to
Yeah.
play ball, why aren't I being paid $40 million to wear those sneakers? So
Right.
that was his whole thing with Steinberg out in California. He ended up crashing and burning and lost it all and went bankrupt during the financial crisis. He dug himself out of this pit
Right.
that he was in. It was like a complete spiritual shutdown, and he decided he embarked on the mission to bring joy to 1 billion. If you look at him up on
Yeah.
the internet, David Meltzer's job and mission is to bring joy to 1 billion
Wow.
people in the world. That's what he does.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So he's a life coach.
Yeah.
When I was dying of COVID, like he popped up on my
Right.
feed, and it was just like we called each other, and it was like, so he's been one of my mentors going
Wow.
forward. Joy is a huge thing.
Huge.
It's an entity,
Yes.
and there's actually a disease, right? Unfortunately, I have an older brother who lived through the Holocaust, who suffers from a disease, the incapable of
Yeah.
experiencing joy. There's a
Yeah.
name for it.
Wow.
It's some
I mean, that's
weird.
got to be torture.
Yeah, it is, but he's in, and there are people who are incapable. So that feeling of joy is huge, and your stuff is so joyful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, so you got fashion, you got housewares. What was the first product?
The first product was
think
the
it-
laundry pod.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
The laundry
Do you
pod.
remember that?
Yes.
It was like a small, kind of a salad spinner for your clothes.
Yes.
So
I remember
if you
that. Oh my
were
God,
camping
that was the
or-
first Dash
yeah,
product.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first.
And
Dash
it went like it was
product.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
amazing.
and then
Yeah.
you
That
spun
was
it.
big
it
and
cleaned your
genius.
So
Oh my
clothes.
here's
God.
one of the best experiences, and this kind of sums up the way business works sometimes, is that we spend so much money to market it. We were making YouTube videos before people, when it was only like Charlie bit my finger,
Right.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was back in the day, and we were using it for marketing. And we went on a sourcing trip to China, and we were going through a trade fair, and we saw a knockoff of the product.
Yeah.
And she went up
Had
just,
you already
Already.
made that?
We
You
already
had the
made
product
it.
Had
in
made
the
it.
market already?
Yeah,
It was
product
already in
was
the
in-
market.
Okay.
And so we go into the booth, and I'm like, oh wow, what an innovative
Right,
product!
right.
Like, where did you get this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
idea? They're like, oh, it's brilliant. We had this idea and this. Let me show you a video. And so they turned the whatever it was around,
it was
and
your
it was
video.
me.
Son
It was
of a-
me
She
on
was-
the
Really?
video.
Peter,
So the
this guy
looks
goes
at it, and he
like,
goes,
Oh shit!
he's going back and forth, and
you
slams
got
the
caught.
laptop. Yeah.
it was just
Busted.
like
But it
such
shows
a
you how
moment.
small, the world's
Such
gotten
a
so small.
So what'd you do?
Yeah, I was just like, this is not your innovation.
Yeah, right.
Like, let's just be clear.
Yeah.
and it was an awkward conversation.
I bet it
for
was.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Then
the
he tried to
knockoffs
sell
is
it.
a
Then
whole
he
nother-
tried
And
to
he
sell
tried
it to
to
us.
sell it to us.
He tried to sell you the
I'll give you
bid.
better
The
price.
company.
A better price. And we're like, no.
So that product obviously did not stay around
No,
for too long.
it didn't stay
Okay.
around for too long. But then we had a funny story where our number one selling product is the mini maker, which is the mini waffle maker.
Okay, right.
And so it went
this
viral
product.
on TikTok and
Right.
all of that. And when we first
So it's literally
started,
like a bun. It's like a
it's
bun.
a tiny little thing. It's
Thing.
like 4 inches.
Okay.
Waffle maker, different colors, like
You
super
just pour
cute.
the pour the
$10.
okay.
Yeah, pour the waffle maker.
And you put the thing
waffle
down
batter
and
in.
it bakes and
exactly.
you're done. Okay, gotcha.
And so when I brought the idea to Evan, he goes, "It's not going to sell. Americans don't want a small little thing. Like
Right.
they want to eat bigger meals." And I'm
Right.
like, "I'm telling you, this is going to sell." He's like, "Try it if you want, but I don't think it's going to sell."
It was kind of like, so there, aren't there like, so I have this crazy friend who started a company called Waffle.
Yeah.
He sells it at Walmart. You may, Sam, you've got to know, you guys have surely
Yeah.
crossed paths. But it's terrible. It's like this pre-packaged frozen, it tastes like cardboard.
yeah.
It's like, so people love waffle.
Yeah.
I mean, waffle's basically
so
a grab
easy.
and go item.
Yep.
Totally. But
Right.
what's great about this is you know the ingredients that you're putting in.
And
You're
you make it takes what,
unprocessing
5
It
minutes
takes
to
like
make?
a couple of minutes,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
then you do it. And so he's like, "It's not going to sell. Americans don't want small, waffles to
Right.
eat." And I'm like, "It will."
Yeah,
How
50
many have we
million
sold?
pieces later.
50 million pieces later.
Oh my
So-
God, that's
Yeah.
fun. And that was the first. So your dad. So you know what's wonderful is because you guys were so innovative that in the space, in the creativity, but also in the marketing and the branding.
Yeah.
So Dash, right?
Yeah.
Great name. I mean, that came out of me. When you see Dash, go check out Dash online. You see it, and it's almost like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
funny part of
Yeah.
it. When it's not. I mean,
Right.
But you feel like, oh, that's been here forever and ever.
Exactly.
And that's what a good brand
Right.
is.
Yeah.
It's like so iconic that
Yep.
it's already in your head. So you create a Housewares line.
Yep.
That was like 15 years ago. For the last 15 years, you've grown it into a multi-million-dollar company.
Yep.
Okay. And so give me some of the other idea. I mean, so basically, what's funny about them is that literally, I guarantee most of the people who are watching this have one of your products in their house.
Yeah.
Right. So think about it. We spend probably more time in our kitchen than
Yeah.
anywhere else. Right. Eating is a big family
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
Talking about the joy thing. So you've recreated this business. So from an entrepreneurial point of view, you guys really have. So think about when I graduated college and I was in the music business, and I had to get my musicians. Then I had to have a guy to produce the record. Then I had to have a guy to record the record. Then I had to have all these different people
Yeah.
to basically that I was paying to get to my end product.
Sure.
I came up with the idea, like if I open up a record store, start a production company, get my own in-house musicians,
Yeah.
I have now suddenly brought everybody in-house,
Yeah.
which is what you
So
did.
we stole your
did.
idea.
We did that
We should be
exact
paying
thing.
you royalty.
Yeah.
But think about that's the ultimate idea of entrepreneurship
Yeah.
is when if you listen to some of the businesses, right, and yours is such a wonderful one in that way, is to bring everything in-house, right? That way you control quality,
Sure.
right? You know what the product is.
Yeah.
You know. Look, it's like I'm in business with my son. We're the last father and son
Yeah.
team on the floor, and everyone's going, "How is that?" And I'll go, look. Fortunately, they have this old premise on Wall Street: what happens from 9 to 4 is over at 4 because money makes people do funny stuff.
Sure.
But who better than your own family
Right.
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
in business with?
Yeah.
So the business took off. You've got Housewares all over the world. You have been in that space where you knew how to deal with China. You knew how to
Yeah.
do with production, marketing, branding. You
Yeah.
built an in-house studio.
Yeah.
All that being genius.
interestingly, though, what we didn't know was this piece of it, the finance piece.
Yeah.
We worked at big companies. We
Right.
never touched money. We didn't know where it came from.
It was all
we just,
done for us.
It was
Like,
just on reports.
yeah.
We saw
Yeah.
reports
That's
with
okay.
numbers.
Right.
So we didn't really know the money side. And you and I...
And fortunately, you had a really good banker.
yeah, we met it at the
the bank.
Chase,
Right, we met at the
on
bank.
Wall
Yeah.
Street.
I
And-
know.
Yeah.
And we were these.
That was
you
the
know,
one piece of the puzzle you guys did not
we
know.
didn't
isn't
know
it?
it.
had no idea.
Which
And I
is very
think-
intimidating
Yeah.
and very foreign to
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
people.
Oh yeah.
But it almost forced us to do really smart things and to make sure that every dollar we invested, there was a return on that investment.
Right.
So rather than using a branding agency and a marketing agency, we hired amazing people who would have worked for an agency,
Right.
and we hired them, internally, and we built studios, and we hired a photographer and a
Food
videographer,
stylists.
food stylist,
And our competition never did this.
Of course, no, they were outsourcing
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that.
But-
And yeah, go ahead.
Totally. So like when you're a buyer and you ask for a request, like I need a gift box or I need a video or a photo, like these other competitors are basically sending it over to their agency. It could take a month to get something back.
Yeah, yeah.
For us, we could do it overnight.
It's all internal.
Yeah.
It's all
done.
happening,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is such a smart way
Yeah.
to do business. Keep it all internal.
Right. Exactly.
For all those different
Yeah.
reasons, and especially in
Yep.
the world. Look, as much as technology has sort of brought everybody together, we are still so
Yeah.
far out,
Completely.
with that. So, look, so you built this incredible business, and talk about, so you brought the finance part into it, and then you got that under your belt.
Yeah, but
because at the end of the day,
flow.
money is the key. So I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
one interesting story. I interviewed a guy the other day. His name is Brandon Dawson. He is partners with this guy Grant Cardone, who's like some real estate billionaire guy. What he does is he scales companies. So it turns out that 80% of companies that get to a $1 to $5 million valuation fail.
Right.
You would never think that. Like, how could it be a $5 million?
Run out of
they
money.
failed. Run out of money, but don't know how to manage
Yeah,
a company that's getting bigger.
Sure.
And so what they do is they don't understand the piece of the puzzle that you guys have done, which is getting people in there who are smart and who know how to do. That's an art in itself. His art. He owns a company that takes companies that are worth $5 million and makes them worth $100 million. And the fact is that most people fall off. It's like lemmings. All those $5 million companies fall off a cliff. You can watch Shark Tank all night long and hear about that. Money alone is not good enough. Even a great product. Right, there's that guy Marcus Lemonis, right?
We were
People,
just with
the
him
4
recently.
Ps. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the 4 Ps: people, process, profitability, and
Product.
product. Right? I love that. But that's what it takes to make a company great.
Sure.
I mean, that's what this is all. So if you get anything out of this, it's like, what does an entrepreneur do? How, you could be watching this, sit at home, and be dying to like make something, right? And I think it's important because you don't, as I just said before, don't wait around till you have every piece of the puzzle, right? To get started.
Right.
You can start today with an idea, with a piece of paper, with another person. Oh, I'm a team player. I love to have, I don't need to be I don't want to be standing on that mountain all by myself with a stack of $10,000 bills and a Bugatti. It's meaningless to me. I would rather have a team. You guys have this one. I remember walking into your office and the vibe was awesome. Everyone's got skin in the game. So I'm going to try to start a business with my son, like a wellness thing. I'm on this journey through, this anti-aging stuff, and we were thinking, how do you do this? And so it's basically you get like a medical manager, you get a somebody who knows food, people, all that. That's what it takes to make a business in this big world.
You need a team.
Yeah,
you need a team.
So anyway,
and you
tell
need
me
to
about
manage
the
the money
takeover.
carefully.
So that's key too.
So we grew from 0 to 100 million, I think, faster than any other company in our industry.
How quick? Well, that's
and
unbelievable.
We, in 6 years,
I think
maybe?
6 years.
0 to 100 million in 6 years. Yourself from 0 to
for
100
10
million.
years. Yep.
That is insane.
Yep.
I mean, who does that?
So we went north.
How did you pull that part off? That's kind of
just
it was
figuring
just
out.
it
We
was
overpaid
time
for money.
management?
Time management
You
and
overpaid for money.
overpaying
Yes.
for money.
Okay, that's fine. There's nothing
Factoring
wrong
and
with
PO.
that, right.
But we knew that we were building equity and building value for us. But at the same time, I was chasing a deal because I just couldn't deal with the cash flow anymore because it was taking me away from what I was great at.
Right.
So just managing that piece of it. I'd chase deals. I'd come back with an LOI, and Rachel would meet the people and say, "They're not in my
I
company."
break up with every single one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, just because you brought people, they weren't the right people.
I mean, with everything that we put into this company, like the blood, sweat, and tears,
Right.
like just somebody that you bring in just because they have money doesn't mean that they're the right
It was
fit.
like dumb money, or
Yeah,
dumb money,
it's
or,
like
or not good money.
I'd
right.
rather just keep doing what we're doing,
Right,
even though it's a
exactly.
struggle.
And I was like, "We'll make it work. Don't
Yeah,
worry."
like,
And she's
no.
like, "No, we don't want like these people don't see the future the way that
Right.
because we still wanted to be in it. We want to build our company to $1 billion company."
Right.
So we took a meeting with the largest company in our industry, most well-respected, Group Seb. They're public on the Paris Exchange.
Okay.
They're an $8 billion company. Started
In the housewares space.
In the housewares
Okay.
space. Started in the mid-1800s. All-clad
Mid-1800s.
Tefal,
Yeah.
Rowenta.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
amazing.
they are amazing, greatest people. And 5 years ago, over 5 years now, we sold 55% of the business. They manage the cash flow for us. They give us
So
resources.
that you brought them in as a
So they were
partner.
our first investor. After giving up a majority in the business,
Right.
is still happy with where they are.
And we are.
We're happier today than we
Yeah.
were
It's
when,
so
when
amazing.
we
Yeah,
did
they're
it.
amazing
Yeah,
partners.
I have a nephew who did that. He built a company. He started. It was in the electronic measuring business, whatever, and most of it in China. And he went out and bought a bunch of different companies and made a conglomerate basically, and then sold a piece, maintained ownership like you, also maintained a consulting piece in
Yeah.
in there, so that it never leaves your world.
Right.
Right. Because that's the bottom line. Just taking the money was not what you wanted.
Right.
You wanted to stay in the business,
Correct.
grow it to $1
Yep.
billion, and not let the quality control and all those other things get
Yep.
out of your hands.
Exactly.
Because you're still going to have your name behind
Right.
it.
Yep,
Yep.
It's still Dash.
Yep.
Right? And so
Yep.
at the end of the day, I cannot stand behind something that's not mine and
Right.
that I'm not. It's like recently, I just did a huge deal, a wonderful deal we did 3 weeks ago, and with a company called Apex Trader Funding. It's a futures platform.
Yeah.
And they asked me to be the exclusive endorser. And then they brought in all these people to introduce us to, like, influencers to speak to. And I made it really clear. I said, guys, I am not going to bring in someone who has different messaging than me.
Right.
I'm not going to. I
Right.
have to stand behind everything
Yeah,
I do,
sure.
and you do that too,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Our
so you got
reputation's all we have.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and you get one shot
Right.
at it.
Exactly.
Yep.
You can't
Right,
mess
it's
it up.
you know, and that's the funny thing. Once it's in the air, you can never capture it
Yep.
again.
Right.
Right. So I mean, that's super powerful.
Yeah.
So where are we now? I mean, you've got this amazing company. You're still a big part owner of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? You're still producing products
Yeah.
for them. I mean, you are Housewares.
We wanna
Everybody
be-
has a product from your.
We want to be the most loved housewares company in the world. I mean, that's where we're going. That's the mission. But that's not just our mission. Like, it's so much. It's so far beyond the two of us now.
Yeah.
It's the team. It's the people that we bring in. It's our customers, our influencers, all the evangelists, and we're opening up new market after new market, which helps us now with the tariff situation also, because we're more diversified around.
People who were with you in the beginning, did they end up having skin in the game?
Yeah.
Your people
Yeah.
like who were. I
Yeah.
remember you had all
Yeah.
the people in
Yeah.
the studio
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
beginning of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's also a really important thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, who else than somebody who's got skin in the game is going to treat this like it's their own
Yeah.
baby?
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, money does funny things
Yeah.
to people.
Sure
Right? Jealousy
does.
and envy around the
Yeah.
money side. Somebody heard you got a big buyout
Yeah.
and I didn't get a piece of it
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
really pissed off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're up against
Yeah.
if you don't bring everybody
Yeah.
into the fold. Let's talk about tariffs. So they run a soon-to-be billion-dollar company in the houseware space. They have a big partner. They're still being creative. They still have skin in the game across the board. And we are here at the New York Stock Exchange, a market that is obviously up on amazing. We're still trading at record highs. Over the last 6 months, since February 19th, we've had this self-inflicted Armageddon, at least from February 19th to April 19th, all around tariffs, right? Our new sheriff in town has a big agenda around tariffs. He does not feel that the U.S. He feels that the U.S. is bankrolling the rest of the world as far as costs of goods sold all over the place. So he's installing this tariff thing. You can think about it, whatever you think about it. You guys run a multi-million-dollar company. The tariff question. Let's talk about tariffs. What were you paying it? So you're dealing with China. You're dealing with a household product, right? So you are a perfect company to talk to about. So one of the biggest problems with tariffs is cost of goods sold, transportation, container ships, right? Supply chain.
Yeah.
All of those things are you wake up with that every day, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So when tariffs came along on February 19th was the day that Mr. Trump said, I am going to install tariffs on Canada and Mexico for 25%.
Right.
What happened in your world on that day?
I mean, we've been worried about it for a long time.
Okay.
So something about working with a partner who's completely different. I wake up in the morning and my eyes open and I'm like, oh my God, this day is filled with possibilities. I wonder what we're going to do.
Right.
And the Michael Jordan of worrying.
Are you a worrier?
Oh my gosh.
Really?
I am such a worrier. So I wake up and I think, what's going to happen? What's
Right,
going to
how-
go
what's-
wrong?
right.
And it's a perfect balance because I get ahead of all the things that are potentially going to go wrong. And
It's a little bit more fun for me, though.
Yeah, I am a worrier.
Yeah, right.
So-
I mean, so did you?
So we saw this coming.
You
Yeah.
saw it coming.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we saw it coming a long time ago.
Long time
Rachel.
ago.
Well, there was Trump
10 years
1.0.
ago. Yeah.
So you must have had
But
to-
even before
No,
that,
change back
Yeah.
then.
even before that, we just knew that, China and the U.S. at some point, there's just too much control, too much risk. All our eggs were in one basket.
Yeah.
Right.
So 10 plus years
Because
ago,
most of your products are all being made and manufactured, components and end
Components,
products
supply chain,
in China.
Yes.
everything.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are
And we
just
bel-
right. Okay. So talk about
So we
that.
looked into
eggs in
doing
the
it
basket.
here
Yeah.
for years,
Right.
and it's just in our category, it's just impossible for us to
impossible.
do.
just cost and labor.
Cost,
right? Yeah,
labor,
of course.
the resources to get it up and running. I mean, the supply chain of all the different
Are
components.
any of the components made here at all?
No.
None.
No.
So think about that. So we're talking from a manufacturing space, we're talking about tariffs, right? Well, everything that's in our world, there's this funny little cartoon that came out during the whole tariff thing recently about a little Chinese boy and an American boy, and he's going, so what do you have that's made in America in your place? And the Chinese boy says, absolutely nothing. And the American kid says, well, what do I have in my bedroom that's made in China? And it was absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, everything from our iPhone, our computer, our sneakers, everything in your world, short of the hamburger you ate for breakfast, is made in China. That may be coming from there also.
Yeah.
So this is your world.
So we looked into American production. We couldn't see any path to
Not
it.
plausible, not realistic, not...
Even right. A $10 mini waffle maker has 80 some odd components. They all have to be manufactured, arrive at the right time, put together. And then there's somebody that needs to, and it's all different materials. So you need all different expertise. China has just done what you did in music, what we did in Housewares.
Right.
They've made it vertical, all
One-stop
in-house.
shopping.
And it's
Right.
like
It's vertical.
raw
Right.
materials all the way through getting made to the final product.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the consumer gets a great value. We get to build a company, hire a ton of people, making great wages, doing highly skilled jobs
In China?
around here
Oh,
in
here.
marketing.
Okay.
And China, we're contracting factories.
Right.
We have some engineers and supply chain people over there,
Right.
but we're creating a lot of American jobs and so many people who depend on us. It's just not the manufacturing piece.
Right. Okay.
But
everything else in the manufacturing is now in-house here in America.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
And that was a pivot.
Yeah.
That was not always the case.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
that's big. So it's like Buy America,
Yep.
which is great.
Right, so we're doing so much good for the country and we're paying a lot of taxes also.
Okay, right.
So now the tariffs come in. But 10 years ago, Rachel said, we've got to start getting out of China and looking at other places and diversifying.
To manufacture.
So
Yeah.
we started traveling to Indonesia and it took us every bit of 5 years to get up and running there. But today we have three products that are top picks on Consumer Reports. We're really proud of, all made in Indonesia.
Okay.
We've got a great supply chain there, great quality, great value.
Quality is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
That's
good.
important.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the whole key.
Yeah, and that's our reputation. That's at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's, we have to make sure that, because we want people to buy multiple products and we want them to fall in love with the products that they buy from us.
And find joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we found that, okay, there's going to be this Liberation Day and we're going toward these huge tariffs. The whole
Right.
thing with China started and
Right.
it got to the point that, you get past 30, 40, 50 points. It is a full-on embargo.
Right.
So 145 points. We'd be paying hundreds of millions of dollars more.
Right.
Now, the dollars that you pay in tariffs, so now China settled at 30%. Indonesia was 36. Now it's come down to 19.
Right, but for a while, just so you know, at one point, February, March, April, we were looking at 185, 145% tariff. And you realize that Apple, when that news came out, Apple actually chartered 4 massive planes and brought $4 billion worth of iPhones to get in under
Yeah.
the radar
Yeah.
before, because the cost of an iPhone would have been to the consumer went from $999 to $3,870.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of what the cost to you is going to be. So
Right.
you told me the numbers, which are crazy.
Yeah.
What were you paying in January for tariffs?
2.7%.
And now?
Now it goes up to 145, but you need, part of the issue is we don't know exactly what it is and it's changing so frequently, so it's incredibly hard to plan. So we have a reciprocal tariff of 30. We
Can
have
you
our
explain to me what is a reciprocal
Sure.
tariff?
I
As opposed-
don't think I can give you a good explanation
know?
of it
You know-
because
you know-
no, but what it
yeah.
is it's supposed if a country is charging us a
Yeah.
tariff or stifling our trade, we're
Right.
putting in an equal charge.
Okay.
Those, I've seen
It
people
offset-
trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the
It's like,
method
what
is.
is Dogecoin?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Right. But in a country that has 10 million people versus us, of course there's not going to be trade balance.
Right.
So what we're dealing with now is the baseline duty, like that we paid forever, 2.7%, 4.2%, that's been built in forever. Now there's 10% punitive tariff, a 20% for fentanyl emergency tariff.
Right.
There's special categories which are called 301. So our air fryers get another 25% tariff. Wow. Then on top of that, there's a section 232 tariff. So we have to declare what portion of the product is made from steel or aluminum and
Right.
pay 50% on that. And
So where
product by
where
product,
is
it's-
the profit? I mean, your profits have obviously shrunk. So the question is, like we just had, Amazon just came out with earnings. The earnings and guidance was great. However, the stock went down after the release. The problem was that they're taking on a lot of they're not willing to pass on the expense to the customer.
Right.
They're willing to take it on, so therefore it's more cost to the corporation, right? Obviously, I mean, how much are you able, is there enough profitability in this that you can pass on some of the expense to the customer? You're absorbing it all.
It's too much not all. It's too much for the consumer to bear. The retailer bears a little bit, we bear a little bit, the consumer bears a little bit.
Okay.
But in the history of us working in retail, if you're not in the luxury business, which we're clearly not, if you raise the price, you sell less. Doesn't matter what. It's been true since the history of time.
Higher costs or higher costs.
Yeah.
Right. So we deal with a weakening dollar, so our buying power is weaker with our factories. It's just something has to give, and it doesn't work. The biggest issue that I see for people, though, is when you buy, if I buy 100,000 air fryers to bring in, and that costs me $10 million, when that hits, I have to pay another, call it 70, I have to pay like 7 million, 70, like depending on what the scale is, you're paying that at the time that it enters. So on a $10 million order, I'm paying
it when it arrives at the port here or when it leaves the port in China?
No,
I don't get it
arrives
from
at
the port. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm paying $7 million.
It doesn't get released until you pay.
Yep.
So that was what was good. That, you know, it's fascinating. When I started doing this CNN thing with Dan, we were talking about the fact that the container ships were backed up in China because the bottom line was, if I don't know my cost of goods sold, if we're just throwing around numbers of tariffs, then I'm not going to even fill the boat in China with my products because on the way, because I don't know what my costs are. That's insane.
Yep.
So the bottom line was boats were filling the harbor empty because people did not know if it was going to cost more in tariffs than they actually were going to make selling the product. And the fear was on February, March, and April was that we were going to have that same supply chain issues that we had during COVID, where there was a complete interruption, where you went to Walmart, Target, the shelves were empty. That was the fear. I'm not sure we're out of the woods on that yet, because I'm sure, but the bottom line is when you fill the boat, you have to know what your costs are. Right? Or else you're in no man's land. Right? I mean, are you actually going to buy $100 million worth of products that you can only sell for $80 million? Right? That's what you're looking at, right?
And
I mean,
it's
that's
typically
crazy.
pre-sold when it's coming in. I mean, we're dealing with
At a
big
price.
retailers, like Target, who we're doing these deals way in the future, and we're not going to go back to them and say, "Oh, sorry, I know I told you it was going to be this, but now it's going to be that." Like that would destroy our reputation.
100%.
And we're in it for their success, and in the short term, it'll hurt us somewhat. But we have increased prices. We've gone product by product 8 to 30% price increases, and the consumer is going to be faced to
they are. They're going to have to.
It is what it is. But the thing that we're hearing a lot of is companies in our industry folding because they can't afford to lay out the money for the tariff when the goods get here, because it's such a long way for them to be able to recoup that money if they're able to recoup it at all.
And that is a huge thing. I have a friend who is there's a caviar company across the street. Have you been to Wall Street Caviar?
No.
Are you a caviar fan?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to talk about caviar.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, he originally started out with 185% because all the caviar now that comes in is being farmed in China. You would think it's from Russia. It's not. It's all being farmed in these, they're being run by Russians, but they're in China. And the bottom line is he had originally was 185% tariff on the caviar and all the way down. And there was a point where it was just this complete interruption where he did not know whether he could even take possession of the product. That's what you're looking at. So people who think that, depending on whatever, this is not a political comment, but people who think this tariff thing, it makes sense in a lot of ways, kind of doesn't, because at the end of the day, higher costs for everybody is going to impact the way the consumer. Think about, there are people, majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck. People who are going to buy book bags next week for their kid at Walmart, that cost $20, it costs $6 to make with a $7 tariff is now going to be $20 to buy. And that's going to be a massive interruption of the supply chain.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's going to hurt the people who can't afford it the most.
and which is the majority of people. And we sell to the masses. We look to be accessible, affordable, deliver a great value. It's harder and harder to hold that value message. We think in relative to the market we will, but the consumer only has so much that they're going to part with. And that's the challenge. So the other thing that happens is as tariffs get paused, then the freight rates come down because nobody's shipping. Then they say, okay, tariffs are paused. Everybody races to ship, and the shipping rates go up 3x. So it's like there's nothing that works in the favor of an importer or a retailer today.
You know what? It's a fascinating thing. It's another thing that I did an interview with a guy. This would be interesting for you guys. His company is called Aeros, wild Russian character, Igor Pasternak. He builds airships. Okay, but like the Hindenburg idea, but these are airships for logistic distribution of products.
Wow.
So what he's doing is now he's realizing that the cost of logistics of trucking through the United States is incredibly expensive. There are so many variables, whether it's weather, cost of a trucker, all those different things. And over the last years, it's been, they actually had to pay UPS went down the tubes almost because nobody wanted to drive trucks. They actually had to raise the minimum to $160,000.
We see it advertised everywhere.
Right, exactly.
Like I was thinking of becoming a trucker from some of the billboards we've passed.
Exactly, that's the crazy thing. So he's taken this company. I don't know what their original thing was. The idea was to do like advertising, with like the Goodyear blimp type thing, and realized that the amount of money. So he's built drone distribution centers inside of the airship so that he can take possession of products in LA, let's say. So the drones bring the products into the airship. They go across the United States. They drop it in Kansas. They drop it in Kentucky by drone, and they can get across the U.S. no matter if it's winter. The trucks don't have to drive through the pass in Colorado. I mean, think it's a genius idea. I don't know if it's going to work because there's so many variables, but the idea of distribute. I mean, that's the whole thing we didn't even talk about. Is the logistics of distribution of all your products to the actual house. There will be a time where you're going to look outside. You're going to order one of your products tomorrow or yesterday. You're going to look up and a bird's going to drop your waffle maker on your head.
I'm hoping the neighbor's pizza gets misdelivered to my house.
Exactly. Oh, you know what? This is so exciting. You know what? I love this stuff. I love branding, marketing. I love products. I love the retro thing. Your space is amazing. You guys are incredible. We couldn't be in a better place to talk about this. Because. Capitalism at its best and entrepreneurship at its best, my audience I hope are younger people who are sitting there. First of all, we always talk about find something you love to do, right? You'll never work a day in your life. You have found something you love to do. That's why you two are the happiest people on earth. I'm sure you never go to sleep angry.
No, we don't.
No,
we don't.
That was my mother, who was married for 70 years, said the key to a happy marriage is never go to bed angry because you're going to wake up angry. And the same in business. Right, you guys are a perfect example of a wonderful couple, a wonderful business, entrepreneurship, innovation, everything across the board. For me, you're the most exciting couple in town. I love you both.
Thanks.
And you know what? That's
you.
Trade Like Einstein. Dash. We never even mentioned the name of the company. Go check it out. Dash. They've got everything you need for your life, and that's all I got to say about that.